Welcome back to the database of Blue Planet War in Heaven for Freespace 2 here on Paladin Gaming. We've had a new pilot's log entry, and we need to finish reading the intelligence. So, but what if I don't die? Entry 4. I feel a sudden and overwhelming need to write in this damn thing. I haven't touched it since the Academy, but recent events are making it abundantly clear that I might not be around much longer. I want to leave something behind. Isn't this... This is what was at the front of the first mission, so we're not going to read it again. No new dossiers, so intelligence. Project Nagari II. The missing pieces. Neither Kansu II nor Aiken Bosch, who first replicated this natural communication ability in artificial form via Project ETAC, were aware that other sensitives had played or would soon play a critical role in Terran Vasudan history. Two already mentioned here were Samuel Bay and his father. Another, lesser known, was the pilot who destroyed the Lucifer, who received not only a sense of the purpose of the Shivans, but in fact later reported full-length audiovisual hallucinations of an ancient narrating the rise and fall of their empire at the hands of the Shivans. Although this pilot was trapped in Sol and so never came into contact with Project Nagari, he was debriefed extensively. These reported visions were discovered to align perfectly with the myths and legends that the pilot's Vasudan comrades, also trapped after the node collapse, remembered about the ancient race that had once visited Vasuda Prime. It is not entirely possible to confirm the notion that this pilot's visions served as one of the focal points of the Ubuntu Party's rise to power. Certainly, the claims by some that the Elders maintain contact with advanced alien species are similar to this pilot's visions. What is almost certain is that the Vasudan pilots who accompanied this Terran into Sol vanished into the ranks of the mysterious, semi-mystical Fedayeen Black Ops Force at some point after the Ubuntu Party solidified its power. It is believed that these pilots remain alive today. The inescapable conclusion of Project Nagari was that elements of the Terran and Vasudan populations were capable of decidedly non-mystical communication with alien species via the detection of modulated quantum pulses. What was not clear was whether the Shivans and their lesser-known counterparts were simply being eavesdropped upon or whether they were intentionally reaching out. The prophecy. The Jester's visions were incomplete and incoherent. What became clear to Kansu II was this. The Shivans were a vastly more alien, powerful, and extant force than anyone had at first believed. The purpose of the Shivans was discernible and definite, but incredibly vast, and somehow linked to something the Jester referred to as a broken trinity. The Jester was fixated upon something he called a deepness which he could not describe. Something unspeakably terrible would occur within the next 50 years. At least one vision concerning this latter point left the Jester in need of antipsychotics before he could regain the faculty of speech. It was at this point that Kansu II elected to reform the Medjai and begin preparing the Vasudan race to fight the oncoming apocalypse. When, in later years, he became aware of the imminent Terran invasion of Sol, he elected not to intervene, simply because he could not afford to weaken his own military in the face of the unknown threat. When the initial Terran incursion into Sol stalled, elements of the Terran High Command approached Kansu and proposed the beginnings of a new reconciliation, centered around logistical support for the Terran invasion. Kansu presented the idea to the Medjai and the rest of the Vasudan government, suggesting that it might end the war and bring the Terrans close again in time to face the new threat. As the civil war ground on, deliberations began. Kansu II was faced with a fateful decision. Would he cast his lot in one side of the Terran civil war in order to safeguard his people against future catastrophe, or would he maintain his independence in the moral high ground and risk extinction? The prophecy feels like it should be a separate entry. Vishnans and the 14th Battlegroup. The following information is classified level Omega, restricted to members of the GTVA Security Council, and yet we have it. We have a great deal of information on the Vishnans. It is, as a rule, completely unreliable. Two members of the 14th Battlegroup's Officer Corps appear to have engaged in Nagari process communication with the Vishnans by means of quantum pulse transduction and specialized human neural structures. The Vishnans provided them with what we believe to be a selective, goal-based set of information about their species. You don't say. What happened to that recon wing? The Vishnans were encountered in a parallel reality accessed by an interaction between the 14th Battlegroup's Meson reactors and the Sol portal. We suspect that this transit was not accidental and may even have been incited by the Vishnan interference in order to achieve an objective. The Vishnans subverted the crew of the GTC Duke by using quantum pulses to directly manipulate their neural strata. They used the Duke to draw the 14th Battle Group into the N362 system, where the 14th retrieved the Terran sleeper ship Sanctuary. After moving through an ancient constructed Knossos device in N362, the 14th Scout Wings encountered the as-yet unnamed Vishnans. These wings were apparently destroyed. And Bay forgot all about that. When a Nagari-sensitive pilot approached the Vishnans in a Pegasus stealth fighter, the Vishnans seemed to recognize the pilot. Brain scans taken aboard the GTD Temeraire indicate the remote activation of the pilot's memories by action potential manipulation. We do not fully understand what occurred during this mission, but GTVA analysts believe that the pilot may have been marked by Vishnan action since birth, leading the Vishnans to scan his memories and activate concealed goals. This suggests that the Vishnans are active in our own universe as well as this parallel reality. After this encounter, the pilot in question displayed increasingly erratic behavior, culminating in his departure to join the Vishnans. During his time with them, he was informed that the Vishnans were psychic beings of pure thought that could move between universes and that they served as great preservers to counteract and balance out the Shivans. We consider it likely that this information was greatly simplified. The Vishnans assisted the 14th Battle Group in defeating a Lucifer Super Destroyer and returning to their home universe. During the final transit of the modified Sol node, the pilot reported a vision in which the Shivans and Vishnans communicated with each other. This vision included mention of a great creator species and an apparent command structure between the Shivans and Vishnans. We consider the accuracy of this information to be suspect. It was relayed directly to the pilot by the Vishnans, and there is no reason to believe it was anything but a highly simplified version of an utterly alien interaction. We have no way of knowing what the Vishnans want with the human species or how trustworthy they may be. Vishnans, what we know. What we do know is this. The Vishnans were named by Samuel Bay. They do not refer to themselves as Vishnans, nor to the Shivans as Shivans. They have the ability to scan, subvert, and manipulate human minds via the Nagari process, learning rapidly and comprehensively. This makes them incredibly dangerous. The presence of a Knossos in the parallel N362 suggests that the Ancients had contact with the Vishnans, yet the Vishnans did not save them from the Shivans. This suggests that Vishnan motives are not purely benevolent, and certainly not simply helpful great preservers. Scans of N362 in our universe indicate that an inactive Knossos portal is present in the system. Given the consequences of activation of the last Knossos portal, no attempts have yet been made to power up or activate the device. However, analysis of the artifact by Dr. Mina Hargrove's team suggests that it was last active just over 50 years ago, and that it could be activated again if an appropriate code was uploaded to its onboard control systems. GTVI believes that data transmitted from the GTC Duke during its sojourn to a parallel N362 contained the code, but the Duke defected to the Federation at the beginning of the recent war for the liberation of Sol. It is possible that a particular combat spacecraft from the 222nd Night Wolves retains the intact code, but an onboard accident aboard the GTD Temeraire shortly after the opening of the war somehow led to the destruction of the spacecraft's records. GTVI is investigating. Our tentative simulations suggest that the Vishnan Great Psyche is a subspace stack entity, a sophisticated construct that exploits energy gradients in subspace to perform computation and cognition. Because subspace surrounds and connects universes, this entity exists outside time and space and is capable of observing the entire space-time bulk. This grants it complete knowledge of all events past and future, although this knowledge may be hampered by quantum uncertainty. The origin of this entity is unknown, but we believe it may be artificial in nature. The Vishnan ships present in the physical universe are agents of this entity. They may be constructed in subspace and delivered to target universes or built on the scene. In any case, these individual aspects of the Great Psyche appear to be fragmented instances of the overall Vishnan entity, charged with specific tasks and possess of limited knowledge and agency. Loss of contact with the Great Psyche leads to inactivation and effective death. The Vishnans in the parallel reality accessed by the 14th Battle Group were unaware of the particulars of human existence or of specific local events until Samuel Bay provided them with this information. However, the Vishnan Great Psyche as a whole appears to have instigated the 14th Battle Group's transit in an effort to accomplish a goal related to the GTD Sanctuary. A more alarming possibility is that the Vishnans were, in fact, attempting to manipulate the officers of the 14th Battle Group into a mindset where they would be unable to accomplish their original missions. In line with the multiple findings produced by Project Nagari, the Security Council has agreed to proceed with Contingency Morpheus. The reunion. The initial GTVA foray into Federation space was a disaster for both sides. Admiral Morian, disoriented by the events of the past few days and the sudden departure of his commanding officer, bungled initial contact with the Rinjayan so badly that he was almost immediately relieved of command. Yeah, he did. GTVA High Command's intention had been to position the 14th Battle Group throughout Sol and only then demand surrender, as additional GTVA forces from the 4th Fleet poured in through the node. During the time that the 14th had been absent between the initial transit and its abrupt return several days later, GTVA High Command had moved the waiting 4th Fleet into a defensive posture, believing that the UEF had destroyed the 14th Battle Group. The fear was that the Elders, having interrogated GTVA survivors, might be preparing a breakout towards Beta Aquila. When the 14th reappeared, Command ordered the arrestees to carry out standing orders immediately, meaning the execution of the plan to disperse throughout Sol, assume bombardment positions above major capitals, and only then request surrender. The GTVA 4th Fleet was ordered to scramble to the Sol node in Delta Serpentis and begin a crash transit. Admiral Morian, meanwhile, was exhausted and agitated after the 14th Battle Group's odyssey into unknown territory. His service in Capella had left the man with a deep-set but largely unrecognized fear of the Shivans, and recent events had exacerbated this phobia. Under pressure, he incorrectly assumed that the order to execute standing orders meant that the arrestees should refer to standing timetables for the Sol invasion, and since the invasion had been scheduled to begin days earlier, he immediately commenced hostilities. Popular historians have frequently condemned Morian's actions as unprofessional and rash, but arguably Morian made the correct choices based on limited information. In the face of the desertion of his beloved admiral and a sudden and shocking return from a veritable nightmare, Morian used the schedules and plans that he was aware of to adapt his actions. In a time of tremendous crisis, Morian fell back on his training. For the UEF's part, the arrival of the 14th was not unexpected. The Elders had greeted the sighting of GTVA probes with open arms, and in spite of a Fedayeen, the paramilitary Black Ops unit, reporting directly to the Elders, often, and arguably correctly, labeled state-sponsored terrorists by the GTVA. Reports suggesting that the probes were stuffed with sophisticated ELINT gear prepared no military contingencies for the GTVA's arrival. The widespread assumption was that Earth's lost brethren had achieved a degree of peace and enlightenment similar to that which pervaded Sol, barring certain elements of the Kuiper periphery and the military. The coexistence of Terran and Vasudan technological elements in the probe scanned by the Fedayeen was cited as evidence for this view. Only when the newcomers failed to arrive in a timely manner did the fleet admirals, Calder, Byrne, and Natriba, convince the Council of Elders to prepare a limited military response. Admiral Calder also initiated a training exercise for the 3rd Fleet, loading several frigate divisions with live ammunition and practicing quick response jumps to various points in the system. When the 14th finally did arrive, the Rinjayan responded to reports of a massive subspace transit with conflicting orders. The Elder's standing request was that the visitors be escorted directly to Earth. Admiral Calder privately requested that Captain Leicester hold the newcomers at the node as a measure of caution. Balance of Powers 1 through 5. Balance of we're gonna break here. We'll start with Balance of Power 1 in a new video, because I have no idea how long I've been reading. So this has been the intelligence section of the database for War in Heaven, for Blue Planet War in Heaven for Freespace 2 here on Paladin Gaming. This is Paladin Gaming signing off.